Nobody knew that Jonathan Swift had a doctorate degree? Or you just didn't like the Kyroot? Take 2 lampoons and call Dr. Swift in the... It's either that or too many of you are Irish and you're still holding it against him. That little piece of humor the man did. You might care, for pondering purposes, to consider this. We're about to. Kyroots did recently. And it was more or less like this, that words complicate primary reality and then seek to resolve the complications, and always with a kind of success that ensures new complexities. Yes, I know, in case any of you recognize it, that we have skated around many times this, which is not just an interesting little lake to go visit. It is very close to the black hole near Lake Placid in the middle of the universe. That is where all of this kind of bubbles up. But it is, Kyroots tried to put it in very specific terms, although it was longer than one of his more pithy 5 or 6 word ones. But it about covers it. And it has a certain kind of, may I suggest, since I don't think he'll hold it against me, a certain kind of potential dramatic or theatrical presentation in that you can sort of dance from one foot to another before it gets through, since it's, I don't know what, 20 words or more. But to at least hear the first part, that words complicate primary reality. We could have made a Kyroots out of that, I guess. Oh, yeah. If I just paused enough, your mind, those of you who've been following this, could go, yes, and even ordinary people. If I just gave them a brief description of what we've been talking about with the definitions of primary and secondary world, many ordinary people would buy into that one. All the way from them just saying, yes, most people besides me and my friends talk too much. And on a more philosophical level, they might even say, yes, words do complicate primary reality, as you people are calling it, because oftentimes you say more than needs to be said. Certain aspects of life simply speak for themselves, and sometimes the palaver of modern life serves no useful purpose. So I just want you to see this is a fairly long bus trip, and you could stop 2 or 3 times in here. That's why I said that I believe Kyroots sort of gave a renewed circling of the wagons, because words, back to it, words complicate primary reality. But then, this is all tied, it's not that there is some choice in the matter. Words complicate primary reality, then seek to resolve the complication, which if we were really ordinary, sophisticated Weisenheimers, you could even stop there and go, maybe we should redefine, reassess our definition of what would constitute a joke at our expense. If indeed, is this what life is doing to us? Is this what Papa Siggy has wrought to discovering the subconscious mind and all of that? Is this what has happened to us? That words, aspects of man's secondary intellectual words, that words complicate primary reality, then seek to resolve the complexities. See, we could stop there, which that's not all the sentence. We could stop there. And I could get many people, some of the same ones that went along with the first part, they'd probably drag in some relatives. They'd say, come listen to this. And they would even go with the rest of it. Now that we've doubled the size of the idea, at least probably the size, number of words, that words complicate primary reality and then seek to resolve the complications. I don't have to do all this for you. Just think of all those smart-ass looks you could take based on that kind of verbal mapping. That is not the truth. Take on a real wide range, you could say that's the kind of sort of neural hypochondria of which too many modern people are susceptible. Does anybody have any idea what that means? Yes, I do. The people build up all these great conflicts, not just individual hypochondriactors building up their individual non-existent or very with shaky foundations, illnesses, maladies, and complaints. But that life in general, whole groups of people, societies, neighborhoods, religions, factions over here, they'll say, oh, things are in a hell of a mess. Things are in terrible shape, but thank God I'm here. There is even, if you recall, it's been a while since we hit it on a more, I guess, metaphorical level, although it happens in life according to history. People like to believe it. It's just an offshoot of the conspiracy theories of the king in one neighbor, in one kingdom, always rattling his saber to his own people based upon the threats that I have secret information they're going to get us. The people next door, you people must stay alert. I'm going to have to increase taxes for your own good. I don't want to, but they're going to attack it any minute. And of course the people are supposed to go along and think, well, who are we? We're digging potatoes and, considering boiling Irish children for supper. What do we know? If the king says that they're going to attack us and that he's got to take more of our rudabakers to, pay for more swords and stuff, I'd rather skip a couple of fried rutabaker sandwiches and live and not be attacked, by these bloodthirsty heathens across the border. You understand? That is a kind of building up of complications. But then the person who built it up, in this case, take it as though it happened. And many people say it did. I'm not going to say it does not happen. But of waving the flag of patriotism to some group on the basis that if we do not stick together and if we don't do so-and-so. In other words, you're making up an imaginary ill. It's hypochondria on a political level, you could say. Is this one guy says, vote for me. Let me take power because there are terrible forces afoot. Their fate's worse than rutabaker sandwiches awaiting us if somebody doesn't take charge, and I may be the person. It's like a parent. Child won't go to sleep, and you say, you better go to sleep because there is a terrible monster lurking in neighborhoods. I was hearing about it, read it in the paper, that gets children that are not fast asleep by 8:30. In fact, there's a guy down the street, his son wouldn't go to sleep. He's like you, kept getting in trouble. His father said, okay, and just walked out and let the monster get him. Thank God you got me. It's like the good old Punch and Judy. A Punch saying, terrible things are happening. And then Judy says, it's a good thing I've got you here. And he says, yes, you do. When you got to remember, it's Jim Henson. Or is it God? I always keep getting them. It's one guy working both of them. It's one guy making the threats and then saying, but thank God you've got me here to protect you. When it was him, throwing rocks out the window when nobody was looking, say, did you hear that noise? And everybody goes, what? He said, boy, it's a good thing I'm here to save you. Do you understand? If we were ordinary people, and I'm not doing this, as you know, to pick on groups of people, because this is not not trying to highlight political theories, conspiracy notions, the wiles and intrigues of monarchs and tyrants. We're talking about the flow of energy in the human nervous system. And back to where we were, first half at least of the original sentence, is words complicate the primary world. You can look at words as being a king. You can look at it as a guy that's throwing the rocks out the French door windows, just hitting the things out there and scaring everybody, and then saying, you guys wait here. I'll go out there and look. All right, whoever's out there, you better watch it because I'm coming out. And all of your subjects go, isn't it great to have Rob, Bill, King Fernando. It's him doing it. Words complicate primary reality, then seek to resolve the complications. Let's press on. That's just about half the sentence. And always with success that ensures new complexities. The obvious, I assume that most of you get, with back to a nice crude example, the obvious one would be, I guess from what I just made up, if you had a guy. Now, all you people, you're not going to worry about a guy, are you, or some damn king? All right, a guy. You got a guy, and he's standing up here around his own subjects, around his own friends, and he begins throwing rocks when nobody's looking. They're all standing around, having a little cocktail party, being themselves, just hanging out. And this guy, like your would-be king, at least the regent, he who would be, you. And nobody's looking, and he throws some rocks out there, right there off the patio. They're all close to the French doors. They're kind of open. And there's like a plastic planter out there. I don't know why a king would have. But it hits it, and he does it several times. He's already been telling stories about life spooky. Because, hell, you know, you've been telling yourself stories that. Those of you who laughed about my story about the guy trying to frighten the kid. It's a good thing I'm not a sarcastic person. Or I'd have stopped and said, why are you people laughing at a guy doing that to his kid? You do that to yourself. And hell, some of you are, I hate to say it, but some of you people are way over 21 now. You've been telling yourself those stories for years anyway. So here it is. This guy throws those rocks out there, and he does it 2 or 3 times after 40 years of scaring the hell out of you already, trying to. Not just trying to. Darn near succeeding. But he does this. We're picking up the sentence now, the idea. He not only does that, and he gets you all frightened, like, well, you may be losing your mind. You guys could be crazy. You're saying the rest of you. It's a good thing you've got me here. It's a good thing I found out about this revolution thing. Good thing I found out how basically, absolutely, potentially genius I actually am, and that you've got me here. No telling what would happen to you people. He's throwing rocks. He's saying, I got secret information that the guys, these people across our border are going to attack at any time and strip us. Use us for the hors d'oeuvres for those little Irish kids that they got for the main course. Words. This guy not only complicates, I was going to try to give you a more hard example. It would be like the guy throws the rocks out there, gets everybody there in the party upset. Like, something's going on. All right, you people wait here, which doesn't take much to get them to say, oh, no, let us help. Check with yourself. He says, now let me go see. It's a good thing I'm here. And so he goes out to seek to resolve the complications. See, that's the complications. Some people call them problems and fear. Let's call them complications. Because words do. And I Kyroots picked out the word very specifically. Complications. We could have said problems and all sorts of things, but words complicate the primary world. There's no doubt about it, looked at, if you can see it all. It's not good or bad. It is indicative, if you can see it, of how life works. That words do complicate the primary world, then seek to resolve the complications. So the guy says, you guys wait here. I'll go out and see what this is. And he goes out. And so he comes back, he waits a few minutes, maybe he makes a little noise, and goes, hey! Y'all know what? So he comes back in and goes. He succeeded. He resolved these new complications. See, they were minding their own business, and it seemed to be a complication like there could be Philistines or heathens or even Republicans at the door. Somebody's out there. Complications that words made. Secondary world. He goes out, he comes back with some success. No problem. Whoever was there, I scared them off. It would then have to be, and I'm going to have to start making up really stuff now, any sort of success when the words seek to resolve the complications that they have in fact themselves been responsible for, the success of what appears to be some resolution is always of an order that absolutely ensures new complexities. And so, even killing time there, I can't think of anything reasonable, so I'm just going to... The guy goes out, after the sham show of him throwing the rocks out there, him setting up the problem, the new complications. He goes out, he comes back, he says, whoever it was, I ran them off. But he comes back in, and unbeknownst to him or anybody else, or unbeknownst to him, on his back now is like Godzilla. Or he comes back in and he's got an aroma so strong that now people are swooning, almost dying. If it were not so, it would actually be a resolution of something. It would actually be a period put on something. It would be the cessation of some tributary of energy flow. So when things seem to get resolved, I didn't mean to get that too complicated. It's just this. All right, here it is. Life knows this. Your uncle knows this. The guy that does changes those tires over at Big Al's. I've heard him say it. He says, Jesus, there's one damn thing after another. So those kind of people stand around and spit and think that they're kind of registering a complaint. But they're not. They might as well be a doctor themselves, and they're coming out of the emergency room, they think of life, or at least out of visiting life, so going, well, the damn thing's going to live. Because when you get one thing fixed in life, what happens? You know what happens. I spent half a Saturday trying to fix that goddamn dryer. And I no sooner got it fixed, and what happened? I was going to wash some clothes, and the washer blew up. Fix the carburetor, and then what happened? You fill it in. You know what happened. But now, that is too close. Not literally, but I was going to say it was too close to the primary world because we're talking about physical, inanimate objects. Now back to where it belongs. But I was hoping if any of you had any doubt where it was pointed towards. Words complicate the primary world and seek to resolve the complications, but always with a kind of success of the resolution, of a kind of success that ensures, it produces, I don't want to say ensures, new complexities. Once you see, then that's one way. You don't have to analyze it, but that would be one way that you would know that this particular line of energy, whatever's going on, of course, to ordinary views, it would apparently be some human activity. But you would know that the thing is still viable and healthy. Well, how would you know that? Because there was a problem, as you saw it, yes, a complication, and you worked it out. Yeah, I remember that. And no sooner didn't you do it, you could barely sit down and have a cup of coffee, and somebody said, well, wait a minute, I just realized, now that we shifted the weight here in the truck, you're right, it's no longer about to tilt over to the left. Now we can't stop it. Oh, the weight shifted. And you go, oh, Jesus. Now, one thing... There was another Kyroot fellow recently that said, without talk, man would have no human problems, and without human problems, which are secondary problems, without human problems, man would not be man. Don't know that would do us a great deal of good to stay on that, but there is the basis again to give you another sensation of how limited the vocal descriptions of ordinary talk is, but the vocal descriptions of life, even when they're apparently running at their most metaphysical, such as in religion, it comes right up against a blank wall, not because of religion's fault, but because of the nature of the energy running the mind on a three-dimensional level. Is they say that success would be what? Well, even psychology does in its own way. They say, well, a successful person, a real Christian, a Jew, a person who lived a successful life, a complete life, not just rich and not just plastic surgery, but lived a life that was meaningful and helped other people and was charitable and all this. What's the payoff? The payoff is, somewhere in paradise, the Elysian field somewhere where you what? Have no more problems. What else is paradise? Why in the hell would anybody struggle and give up neat things like drugs and screwing your neighbor's wife if you're going to get into heaven, get into paradise, and it's the same thing? No. If there's any justice, if we're going to meet in the great halls of Valhalla, perhaps with some heat there, I was hoping for the best, in case we all end up with some of you of a more Norwegian persuasion in your afterlife journeys, we might all get caught up. But what? The mind has no choice. Well, we can shave around the idea of problems, but that is exactly what it amounts to. If you're getting a little bit better, at least for the night, you could look at it as complications. Heaven would be a place with no complications. I don't think the Old Testament or New Testament Quran is quite that hip yet. To say, well, live a good life, and after you die, you won't have any more complications. You know, it's hard enough, evidently, to get people to buy into these other stories about, well, you know, give us 20% and your wife, and don't drink, don't smoke, don't have any fun, and after you die, you won't have any problems. You know, there are too many bricklayers around that consider the weight of all this to begin with and go, now, wait a minute, if I don't have any fun now, you know, if I give up everything now, you're going to say that then when I die, I won't have anything to give up, sort of. Of course, I understand that all the real good, right-thinking Baptist theological colleges now, they try to teach the pastors to get past all that, such as, look out the window, is that At any rate, do you see? And it's really, religion, as always, or as very often, is just the easiest example. But what would their success? When would anybody go undertake analysis? When would anybody try and put themselves in the hands of an advisor of some kind? Why does anybody seek advice? It is so, well, so I won't have problems. And you just can't argue that. There's nothing else to say. But the fact remains, and it's tied to what we started with tonight, I thought maybe it would take it just out of the realm of a heard and forgotten Kyroot, that without talk, man would have no human problems. And that's just, we covered that, but you surely see it. You can die, which you will. What do I mean you can? I didn't mean to frighten you. Okay, all of you will. I didn't mean that some of you couldn't make it. All of you will. You can get sick. You can lose a finger. You can lose an ear. But we're talking about human problems. Secondary problems are what human problems are. Without talk, there are no human problems. It's just not possible. And that's a fact. Once you see the kind of operational mapping we're doing using the terms primary and secondary. Without talk, there are no human problems. Period. It's just not. No way. But, that wasn't a period, of course. There it was a, how about a semicolon? All right. Without talk, man would have no human problems, but without human problems, man would not be man. And you could say, well, if you're really a vapor brain, I guess you could say, oh, well, that's self-evident. Based on your own sentence, if we're going to consider that a closed universe, you made up the premise. And sure, you can say that, but it is true. You would not be human unless you had all the human characteristics. And you can play around with saying, such as zoologists, biologists, etc., that, well, what distinguishes man is the fact that he has a larger cortex, or in easier times that man has an opposable thumb. Now they found some chimps that do pretty good. They don't have phones yet. But anyway, they keep trying to say what distinguishes man. And then, of course, people of a more secondary bent get in and say, well, that's because he has art, and that, which is all debatable. But there is one thing that you have got to be able to see, that if there is one thing that would distinguish a man, it would be a man's problems. In the full sense of problem, not just complications, needs, but people ordinarily, the way the mind looks at it, are problems. When it gets down to it, people look at eating being an absolute primary necessity. They look at it as a problem. Not that you don't enjoy it when you're sitting there and you got a good meal and you can pay for it, but it's a problem. I got to get some more food. I can't stop. So no matter what other distinguishing mark or characteristic you tried to take in viewing man, you would have to agree to this, because I could do it at a primary level, which doesn't prove anything, that the benchmark, the de rigueur classification of a jackal is jackal problems. that you can say, well, a jackal's got, obviously, you'd think, genetically, something much in common with domestic dogs, with wolves or foxes, yeah. And they probably have to stay within a general temperature range that would be similar to the dingoes of Africa, certain wild dogs. You go, yeah. And so you can point out that they have certain characteristics, needs in general, in common with somebody else. But then without even getting very specific, you would have to say, being any kind of verbal person, any kind of intellectual person, you'd have to say, all right, in that sense, what would this finally distinguish, if nothing else? A jackal would be jackal problems, because he's got some kind of problem, some kind of needs that's going to be unique to him, or his genetics, the patterns would be such that he wouldn't be a distinguished, a separate, discrete breed or species. He'd be a dog. A human. Without talk, man would have no human problems. Without human problems, a man would not be a man. It's not to make you feel good if you got problems, but look. Look at what the mind does, back to where we were, and I'm going to leave it, is the mind says absolutely otherwise all of the way. We're talking about educated, the people who run the world. And they're right, of course, in that sense. That all the way from religion to psychology, sociological observations, and detailing of man's movements, they would say, what is the goal of life? Sure, if maybe you're a bricklayer coon philosopher. That, yeah, well, part of life is to have a little fun, meet a few women, have a little beer, have a little fun. But, one of the things you want to do is not only have a little fun, is to escape some of the, damn heartaches of life, some of the hardship. Get a job to where you don't have, the banks on your back all the time, or some used car lot. That it's not just to seek pleasure, but that, some of this, always somebody giving you problems. That I would be happy if I was rich. I don't care about being a smart aleck and trying to show off, but at least if I was rich, I'd get rid of some of these what? Problems. The whole idea. The epitome being the idea of an afterlife of paradise would be where there is no what? You don't even have to guess. You don't have to be a Christian or a Jew or anything. You just know. You can just guess. Well, I never heard that religion. But I bet you they say when you die, where do they say you go? You go to a magical hole in the ground. All right? And you've never heard the religion. Nah, but I bet you I can guess one of the main characteristics, if you live a good life and ask the witch doctor when you die and you go to the hole in the ground, what's the main thing about the magical hole in the ground? Is you get there and you don't have any problem. No hangovers. Your wife never catches you in bed with somebody. You never get sick. You never get this wax build up in your ear and nothing. You're not down trying to pick up this fine-looking babe and suddenly realize you got a nose hair that's hanging down 6. But besides the specifics, everyone can guess. The whole idea of some payoff is to have no problems. But notice, and nobody can even see this, the human mind can picture this as occurring at only one time, one circumstance. When I say it, of course, it's obvious, except it's not obvious. They can picture it only under one condition. When's that? When you're dead. Now, see, I'm doing a little bit because ordinary people go, well, wait a minute, that was a cheap shot. Yeah, well, sure, you're dead. And then they will go, but, bring up on the risers that chorus line of Greek mourners are going to join in and help explain this away. Yeah, you're dead, but you ain't really dead. Yeah, right. Well, sure, your car won't run, but hell, go ahead and drive it on to Memphis. Okay. I started to say even a Baptist minister wouldn't do that, except somebody told me one time, or Oral Roberts still has this story that when he was young, he did pray for his car when it was broke, and it started running again to some tent meeting. So, who am I to say? Now, skip religion and all that right quick to wrap up tonight is back to not only, you see, does the mind immediately picture that the payoff for being a human would be have no problems. And I'm pointing out to you quite truthfully, it's not playing with words. What they're picturing is the payoff to living a good life is not, let's put this in the right context. They're going to say is to have no problems. No. What they're saying is if you live a good life, the payoff for being a good human is to what? By God, to finally not be a human. Now we're getting somewhere. And it's not just being funny. It's not being sarcastic. Back to where I was, that it is not when I said that they're actually describing somebody dead. The mind, certainly, I knew that, would try to get out of it and say, oh, no, because people are not really dead. They're just, doing a real fine, imitation of it. Somebody 4,000 years ago actually got and walked around. Well, somebody said they saw him. You understand that this is not at any primary level, and it's not to any personal, secondary level, an accomplished fact. When they describe what the payoff to living a good human life would be to have no problems. That is, the payoff for living a good human life would be to eventually not be human. And the payoff, the best they can do. Now forget them shaving around, which everybody does. It's not their fault, because I know, again, that all of you got relatives. All of you got relatives in your own spine that are still religious or want to be. But notice, the payoff, they cannot even picture it. There's nowhere to put it in local reality. The idea of having no problems is only perceivable if you're dead. I know. And they go, no, wait. So you stop too soon. You got to say, well, yeah, you're dead, but then you come back. But even if we said, okay, maybe you do. I'm not saying you don't. How about this? You're here now, right? Yes. And you say all kinds of problems. Oh, Lord, yes. I got problems up there. You know what? And so you're saying you're trying to do good. Oh, yes. Now that I'm 40 and I can't drink as much, I've cut down my drinking. Praise God. And I quit. And after all those years of drinking, I'm so close to being impotent, I quit fooling around my wife. Thank the Lord. All right. So we're on the. But I can't quite reach the full state of perfection. But I know now I'm going to church all the time. Since I don't drink and I don't fool around, I got a lot of spare time, so I started going to church. And I'm becoming more religious. All right. When do you think this state of perfection might be reached? The mind can only say one thing. It won't say this, of course. It'll say, well, in heaven, in paradise. Well, what's it saying? Well, it's saying two things. The first stage it would even think of saying is, well, when I quit being human. Which nobody's going to say that. That would be the only way that a man would not be human, would have no human problems. Or conversely, the only way that he would have no problems was to cease to be human. But they can't even say that one so. Second one. You say, all right, you say that you're not quite to the state of perfection. Oh, certainly not. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. Blessed be Allah's name. But I see that it's possible now. And you say, all right, tell us how and under what condition it's possible. And of course, they won't put it this bluntly. I know. But what are they going to say? I'll be through with problems and being a human when I die. Of course, ordinary people say that, and the internal noise there, the background radiation, the famous station WIII, is saying something else. When I'm dead, but not dead. When I'm dead and in paradise. I'm pointing that which can be observed and felt in your own nervous system. That even if the last part's true, just take it as a given. The part that they still can't face up to that's of some significance that could be used now, if you're a revolutionist, is even if there is a life after death and paradise. Forget all of that. Just say there is. Look at the benefit that a revolutionist could use to just simply see this, which the mind ordinarily goes, where? What? Is it saying, I will be a superhuman. I will be less than human. I will be amply, properly rewarded for living this superhuman life. Yes. When? Yes. When I'm dead. Now, if you can, for a second, stop worrying about your beautiful little body, and all of you have beautiful little bodies, laying there in that poor coffin, and all of us crying and thinking, what time do they bring on the booze? Rather than that, literally about your body, consider this. The mind itself has died every time the thought process has died when it goes that far and can go no further. Which in one sense is where God, the idea of gods and supernatural forces and all that comes from. Is the mind runs as far as it can against the closet wall, And it goes, huh. As it should, because the mind's in charge of growing. The liver, your colon can run against a wall somewhere, which it should. And if you got any sense, you hear it run against a wall. You know, if your liver does, you think, well, I believe I'll cut down my drinking for a while. You know, that kind of thing. But when this runs into a wall, it's not supposed to. If you're just the ordinary, if you're in the middle of life's bell curve and alive, it's not supposed to stop there. It's supposed to go, wait a minute. In the full sense, the academic, intelligent, sophisticated sense of, hey, wait a minute. And it'll do almost anything. I think it's normally known amongst you people as what? It starts with an I. Not Iowa. Imagination. And so it's not that the mind is wrong at the ordinary level, but it's not supposed to stop. It's not that what I'm telling you is correct for everybody and that they should see it. Nay, nay, nay. It'd be bad. Suicidal. Because ordinary people would take what I was just been talking about, even with my kind of warnings about this, no attack on religion, etc., etc. If you suddenly got ordinary people and you made them see, oh, wait a minute, everybody, Christians, Jews, Hindus, everybody that believes in some kind of afterlife, what you're saying is that the only way that you can reach any kind of better state, the only way to be paid off for living a real good human life, the only way it's possible is to die. You see the useful significance, except the ordinary mind can't do that. That is driving it right into the corner of the closet. That proves nothing. I mean, in some way, if I could drug large numbers of people, you couldn't say, wait, everybody needs to see this. People out on the street need to see this, because it'll free them from all kinds of strange beliefs and weird imagination. No, it wouldn't. It'd kill them, secondarily speaking. And so but I'm pointing out to you, what it should say is, wait a minute. It got nothing to do with religion and God and Allah. What it is the limitations of the mind inside of a finite landscape. Because it only goes so far, and it can't even see how far it went. That is, it says, I went so far that I am now into the infinite. No, you're not. You hit a wall. You went as far as the mind could go, and you went, well, you know, it's like, I'll be said it right quick, I assume you're getting it. It's like your mind, the thought processes, rush forward, as they should, always looking for new experiences and trying to think more, and they run their little heads against the side of the closet wall, and they're in a state of kind of dizziness. And if you're really sophisticated, subconsciously, then your thought processes went, uh-oh, there's no way out of here. So what does it do? It imagines there is a way out of here, but it's supernatural. I know it is. I can't describe it, but I know it's there. And I can't find it, and I can't prove it. Oh, I got it. It'll only come into existence when I die. That's not efficiency. Whether it's right or wrong, as I said, it doesn't matter. Not from any kind of useful view, unless, of course, you understand it. And then it doesn't matter times two. But instead of it being absolutely staggered and stopped, like, well, there's no way out of this. I cannot figure what it would be. Where I'm standing now, I cannot figure how it would be to be less of what I am. I can't do it. So therefore, I'll imagine I know. That's a cheap way of putting it, but that's what it amounts to. It's like the mind being able to fly some more. Well, it is tacitly saying, if I was less of a human, I feel guilty being human. And of course, you look to why I feel guilty, and there's a guy walking up and down the aisles of the bus. Remember, the driver said, once we get started, there'll be people. Nobody knows where this bus is going. The driver told you, remember? Nobody knows. But as soon as the bus gets going good and everybody settle down, there'll be some people who begin to walk up and down the aisles, hawking the information as to where this bus is going. You can count on it. They're right in your own aisle. But everybody looks like, well, I don't know what's going on. I can't think past this. I don't know what it would be to be less of what I am. And so you look around and somebody's there. Well, I'm glad you asked. Our religion, our philosophy, has mainly been religion's job. Our religion can tell you what it would be not to be you. What would it be? All right? If you are not you, because you don't feel absolutely comfortable sitting there in that seat being who you are. No, I don't. You probably don't know why, do you? Which is the easiest answer in the world, because nobody knows why. But you're supposed to reach the age of 12, and they cut off a part of your pecker. And then they say, now we'll tell you why. It's because you have not been a good Christian or Jew. Or you go, oh. They say, well, it's a good thing you came here, because we'll tell you now, start living by these rules. And then you'll get the right payoff, which is what? and they don't want to say it, you'll die. And so they learn how to mumble right quick, and they say, well, you'll die, and then you'll come back to life, and you'll be the real payoff. And what it does is their mind, like everybody else's, the thought process has hit the wall. And so they could just stagger there in the closet. Everybody could have years ago. Humanity could. And go, well, Jesus, that guy in that Kyroot, I don't know how we're going to play in anachronistic games. That thousands of years ago, somebody heard that Kyroot tonight and went, wait a minute, that's like the guy in the park that said, what if life itself is the ultimate question that has no answer? See, that could have been the thought processes of humanity in the secondary sense thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, going, wait a minute, what happens next? Of course, ordinary people think what happens after death. You people are supposed to be good enough. You're supposed to say, what the hell am I going to say next? That's the future. That's the infinity. But at any rate, and it hits its head against the wall like, where is this going? What's the meaning of this? And it doesn't know. If there'd been nothing else then, a few people have done that. Your grandfather, your grandmother, they would have done that. And knowledge, the thought process of going, well, screw this shit. Well, all right, I shouldn't use that technical. It would just keep trying, well, what's going on here? And it'd bang its head 2 or 3 times and go, well, never mind this. I'll go back to laying bricks and driving a truck. And it cannot see that the very limitation is useful information. To say the big L. The least. Until next time, this is you and everybody else saying until next time.